That's it. I'm not sure what this is, but I like the looks of it. That's it. I'm not sure what this is, but I like the looks of it. Crawfish pie.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up today for the launch of Susie Norris's Baker's Passport. I've been cooking out of this book for several weeks, and it's been a great adventure for me. And Susie is my gypsy sister now, I guess, because we've traveled for the last 5 years all over Europe and now Asia. And it's been a joy to learn about cooking through her eyes. Celeste Wesson, come on out, ladies. Celeste Wesson is an NPR veteran. A lot of people here know her, writer, producer, an extraordinary radio newswoman. And she's agreed to conduct an interview with Susie. And of course, we're all here for this gorgeous girl, Susie.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Well, hello, welcome everybody.
Thank you.
One of the things that really struck me was that Susie writes about the most famous cake in the world. And I never thought about cakes as being famous or not famous, but I thought it's a fun story to start with, and also has a connection to this book.
Well, and it has a connection to this crowd because you've all just sampled it. It's the soccer torch from Vienna. And the reason it's so famous is because there was no chocolate in Europe until this chef Soccer, opened a bakery and started using a lot of it. And chocolate was something that the aristocracy had. And now you could just go down the street to the corner bakery and buy it. So his business thrived to the point that he opened the Soccer Hotel, and there was a long lawsuit when people started calling their soccer torch the original soccer torch. And so there's still a bit of a brawl happening in Vienna over this cake.
200 years later, almost. And the other thing about this cake is that this cake is part of the reason for this book.
Yes.
And I just wanted you to explain a little more about how that connected you to your ongoing
Yes.
blog series.
Well, when we were when I was teaching in culinary school, this was one of the cakes that we taught, very famous cakes. And I would tell the students the story, and then I get so fascinated, like, oh, I wonder what it's like. If you go over there, you can really go to the Soccer Hotel, which you can. You can really go to Gerbod's Cafe, which Tracy and I did. And you can have these desserts from the original recipes in the original places of origin. So that just got to be those were the touchstones of our travels, and really the essence of the book is that everywhere you go there are regional cuisines, particularly baked items, and this book is about those, and most of them you've heard of.
What are some of the savory recipes that you felt attached to?
Yes, well, a few of them you've had, and the enchiladas from Mexico. Every savory recipe, and really most of the sweet ones as well, come from a place. There's a reason that they're classic. They've started in the region of their ingredients and become famous because of their quality. So let's see. I guess I am just thinking of the enchiladas that we made today from Oaxaca. I'm thinking of the queso that's from northern Mexico. I'm thinking of guacamole, which is a sauce from Mexico City, very much like the Aztecs used to make.
Wow.
You know, places, food, and stories are so important to humanity, and I feel like if we're not careful in preserving them, they might be lost because we're up against a corporate food system that doesn't value your grandmother's recipe like you do, and it doesn't value teaching your children about how to bake and why it's important and where things come from. And if we lose that, we become victims to corporate foodways that are not about health; they're about profit. And if I sound a little cynical, forgive me, but one of the drivers from food advocates is always, well, you better learn how to cook and teach people how to cook, because otherwise you can't source your food. And so this is an important thing for us. And coming from a teaching background, to me, it's important to teach, and I like to teach, and I hope this book teaches. I hope that it brings people who think they don't have time, or they don't have interest, or they're not qualified. I hope it gives them the assurance that they are and they can, and it may take a little time. You might have to work at it a bit, but it's fun.
What are 2 or 3 recipes that you might suggest for someone who is starting to learn how to cook?
One of the quickest ones is we have a cod recipe that's based on the miso cod. You guys have probably had that in Japanese restaurants around town, and it was invented here in LA. And it's actually so easy. You take a piece of cod, you put some miso on it, and you bake it. That's about it, with some soy sauce. So that's something where you can say, hey, I did this gourmet fish for dinner in under half an hour, and now I have some mastery over how to do that. And so that's a popular one. The ones we did today have a lot of ingredients. Enchiladas, they just did a lot of ingredients, a little chopping, a little spice, a little sauce. But all of these recipes are customizable. So if you like less peppers than I do, which is very possible because we put a lot in, you can adjust it to your taste.
I think we're ready for some questions from all these folks who are here.
The most complicated dish in the book.
Ooh, thanks, Tracy.
Oh, the jobosh tort is probably the most advanced recipe in the book. It has a lot of steps, and it's a sponge cake, which means whipping egg whites separately, which some of the cakes do. But each recipe is marked easy, medium, or advanced, so you can have a clue before you go in there.
Do you have a memory as a child of loving food, or like having a sense that food would be very important to your life and your work?
I did love it. I loved to bake. I remember having this feeling of accomplishment. Of like, I figured out those cookies and I made them. And then it moved on to chocolate cake, and I made that too. And then there was the day the chocolate cake crumbled and I cried, and then I tried again. And I feel like I'm still in that pattern pretty much.
So it's experiment-based baking.
Yeah. It's not unusual to screw up. You're allowed to. You're allowed to. And if with people are a little bit more accustomed to adjusting a cooking item that goes wrong, a sauce that goes wrong, you start fixing it until it goes right. And with baking, sometimes it doesn't work. You throw it out, you pretend it never happened, and you serve some fruit and cookies, and you're fine.
In your travels, if you went to a place that maybe you were a little hesitant about, but that you connected.
The food to me is a pathway into a culture. So in Japan, the artistry of each dish, when it's presented formally, gave you a sense of how much love that's put into it, of thoughtfulness and restraint. And I'm familiar with that from the pastry arts. Really, a lot of cake decorating isn't just throwing a lot of beautiful flowers on there. It's adjusting them so they have an impact. And so I do connect to that piece. And that was I don't speak any Japanese. I didn't on the way there, and I don't on the way back. But I have the visuals of the food, and I understand that piece of how it's presented.
I'm going to ask one more question.
Okay.
Where are you going next?
Oh, wow. Well, my husband said I'm not going anywhere for a while. But if he sets me free, China or Greece? Oh, they're on the way. They're on the way.
Can we all come with you?
Yes, you follow on the blog. Yes, the books are there. We'll swipe your card, and you can get it on Amazon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.